Well, good evening, everyone. I'll call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. by recognizing the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the municipality of Brighton is located on the Mississauga-Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga. The Council of the Municipality of Brighton respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga nations are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. I will also advise that due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting will be held using various formats. Members of council and some municipal staff are present in chambers. Other staff members and people coming in with reports are joining us via electronic conference technology. The public is invited to join us by viewing this meeting live on the Municipality of Brighton YouTube channel. And I will note that once we proceed into closed session, the live YouTube stream will end for the duration of tonight's council meeting. We'll move on with a motion from Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council approve the November 1st, 2021 council agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. Councillor Tadman? Your microphone, please.
I'll be declaring on 9/1, and I think it's self-evident by the report, but I should.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Bateman?
I'm going to declare on 13.3. I don't think there is a conflict, but when in doubt, sit it out. Digital archives is going to be taught. The correspondence is about the number of photos they have backlog, and my wife is going to lend her restoration skills and Photoshop skills to that, so I'd rather not participate.
Thank you. Anyone else? Duly noted. Thank you, everyone. Are there any announcements this evening? Councillor Bateman?
I'll start with the vaccination clinic because both my announcements happened on Saturday. Again, considering the weather and where we are in the vaccination, it went well. It was damp. And following the vaccination clinic shortly thereafter, we had the trunk and treat, and it was, again, considering the weather, even without the weather, it was well attended. I think we used the fire department to track because they had a set number of bags. I think we went through 165, 170. So, and the kids seemed to have fun. But I'd like to give a shout out first and foremost to the organizing group that helped put it together, to all the participants. Councillor LeBlanc was there dressed up as the Leo Lion. The mayor was there with his wife. Councillor Rowley, you came through, I think, with your grandkids. But I'd really like to give a shout out to the fire department too, because not only were they over at the fire hall, two of them for the vaccination clinic, we had kept joking all day long, we'll see you over at the trunk and treat as long as you don't get a call. And I barely left the fire hall and parked over at the Codrington Community Center because I didn't want to drive back and forth. And I think the alarm went off at 2:17 and they had to go to a fire. Then they spent the whole time at the trunk and treat. And then right after they left there, they got another call. So they put in a long day to help out. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor LeBlanc.
Yes, at the Codrington Farmers Market, it wasn't well advertised, but next Sunday they're having the Santa Claus craft show. And they got 34 through 44 participants as everybody they're going to be coming there. So if anybody's looking for the Santa Claus crafts, they can go to the Codrington Farmers Market to do that. It's next week.
It's this Sunday coming.
This
the
Sunday
7th.
coming. Yep. I was there on the Sunday. The other announcement I have, to me as a council, I think we should thank Mr. Dunnett for letting his use of his apple orchards for the cross-country ski race. When the kids couldn't go to Presqu'île, they couldn't go to other facilities, and he allowed it to happen. And there was 3 races, 3 separate weeks in a row, and that was good for the whole municipality that could go there and race, and other people from the other parts of the county.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else? I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council adopt the October 18th, 2021 council meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Oh, Councillor Rowley.
I do have a little bit of an announcement. It just came to my mind because I'm trying to count ahead to where we are. And it's basically just kind of a public service announcement. I've had a few questions from folks regarding the holiday train. Will we be hosting the event like we always have at the Prince Edward Street crossing? That's not going to happen this year. So I just wanted to, it just kind of came in my head that I should maybe, I think by the next opportunity, it would have been over if we were going to do it. So as of right now, any correspondence that I've had, there is no holiday train stop in Brighton or anywhere, I believe.
The CP is not running its holiday train this year. That's the deal. Are we still on announcements? I thought we'd moved on, but all right. Deputy Mayor.
Just not a big deal, but we do have our first budget meeting this week. And I know that hasn't been, usually it comes to our agenda and that hasn't yet. So I just want to make sure the public knows that we're starting into budget season.
And that's on Thursday evening at 6 o'clock.
Right.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? I read the motion. Does anyone need me to reread it with regard to the passage of the minutes? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. We have no statutory public meeting this evening. Maybe I should ask if there's any more announcements. We have no delegations. Move into citizens' comment. Madam Clerk, are you aware of anyone joining us for citizens' comment? No. Deputy Clerk? That brings us to staff reports. Our first report is from the clerk's office, but will be delivered by Mr. Abrams and Ms. Atwood-Petkovski from Principals Integrity with regard to an integrity commissioner closed meeting investigation report. And before I turn the floor over to the Principals Integrity, Madam Clerk, do you have anything to add or comment on here?
No, I do not.
Thank you. So I will ask the integrity commissioners to please go through their report. I don't think we need to belabor the items in the report. We've all had a chance to read it. I think some of us have probably read it a couple of times, but I will turn the floor over to our integrity commissioners for their report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to you and good evening to Council. I am Jeff Abrams. On your screen, you'll see Janice Atwood-Petkovski. We're principals in Principals Integrity, which has been your integrity commissioner since 2018. I will be doing the introduction tonight, Mr. Mayor. Janice is available. Either of us may answer questions at any point or at the conclusion of remarks or during the course of your deliberations. At the outset, for the assistance of Councillor Tadman and the clerk, a special conflict of interest rules apply to meetings to an item such as this one. It's quite clear that Councillor Tadman has a pecuniary interest in the outcome of this report because it contains a recommendation for suspension of her pay. She's required to declare that interest, as I understand she's done this evening already, but she should know, and the clerk should know, that she is specifically authorized as a matter of procedural fairness to speak to the issue today. She may speak to it, engage in the discussion, but she may not vote on any motions put by council in the matter. You're quite correct, Mr. Mayor. We believe the report speaks for itself. I won't be going through it in detail. It began with a complaint filed by yourself on behalf of the whole of council to investigate all members of council to determine who may have improperly disclosed confidential information from a closed session meeting. And you can look at paragraphs 9 to 12 for the framework. We interviewed all members of council and did so under oath pursuant to provisions to be found in the Municipal Act and the Public Inquiries Act. We also interviewed key members of staff. We took the same approach with all members of council, although we did find it necessary to issue a summons in one instance. Every council member interviewed had the same base questions asked of them and then follow-ups as necessary and appropriate. We also conducted what we would describe as a forensic search involving email accounts and telephone records, searching for keywords and numbers. At the end of the day, and as the report indicates, we found that Councillor Tadman and only Councillor Tadman had breached the code of conduct obligation to maintain the confidentiality of closed session. As the code provides, and you can see paragraphs 26 for the excerpt, it is the responsibility of each member of council to ensure that confidential information provided through administration, other council members, solicitors, employees, the public, or through any other party is kept strictly confidential and not released without the approval of council. Only with council authority will council members give or release to anyone confidential information acquired in the course of that council member's duties with the municipality. We did find that Councillor Tadman disclosed confidential information to the former mayor. We found that Councillor Tadman also disclosed confidential closed session information to a friend in Toronto. Our findings are in fact based on the councillor's direct admissions to that effect. The disclosure of council's confidential information is a cardinal breach of the Code of Conduct. Such disclosure can undermine the municipality's interests in a significant way. At a minimum, it erodes the trust members must have in each other in order to properly carry out their roles. As noted by Councillor Tadman during our interview, once disclosed, you have no control over how the information might be shared. In this instance, the disclosure resulted in potentially significant downstream implications. Because the breach of confidentiality is such a significant breach of ethical behavior, we are recommending the imposition of a sanction of between 30 and 45 days. Mr. Mayor, that concludes our remarks. If council has any questions, or if you'd like us to respond to something that's said during the debate, we'd be happy to do so.
Thank you. I'm sure members will have some questions, but first I'll read the motion, and to the mover and seconder, we'll need a bit of clarity on which route you'd like to go. So the motion reads, is moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council receive the closed meeting investigation report dated October 22nd, 2021. And further, that having been found to have breached the Municipality of Brighton's Council Code of Conduct, the remuneration paid to Councillor Mary Tadman be suspended for a period of between 30 and 45 days, commencing with the next pay period. And I guess I just need a specific period, if that's the intent. Councillor LeBlanc is the mover.
Your Honor, may I speak? Other than what you just asked me.
No, right now we're just clarifying the motion, and then
If I say receive the report without the loss of pay, because it's only a recommendation, what does that happen with that?
well, then that's the motion I would read, and then we would carry out a conversation and a debate based on that.
I would recommend to receive it without any loss of pay.
So this is your motion. So for now,
Yes.
at least, we remove the recommended penalty. And Councillor Bateman, as the seconder, are you okay with that?
I'm okay to leave it, what he just said, and open it up to debate.
Very well, thank you. So as it stands now, the motion will read that council received the closed meeting investigation report dated October 22nd, 2021. And that's how it reads at the moment as we move forward. Questions or comments from members of council? Councillor LeBlanc.
The reason I asked for without pay is because Councillor Tadman has been a councillor for 14 years. She hasn't even had a traffic ticket. I think she had a serious judgment. She made an error, which is very evident, which we can't go around. She's been publicly humiliated with these comments that have gone into the Quinty News and into this minutes that have gone to all the public. And I think for her, I think that is severe punishment because she has lost over stress and everything of doing this, whatever it was. She's lost over 13 pounds. And she has been a highly membered council of committee and it all. And in other instances that has taken place, that when I do some research on some of the other punishments that have been done, they've been done in terms of council where previous mayor, Councillor Mike Vandertoorn, Emily Rowley was on a committee with the previous mayor. And there it was the same breach of conduct out of a closed meeting. And it came out of there, no loss of pay, but to be sanctioned severely, to be told the humiliation of it. So I've read, and there's a few more, but I'm not going to go through them. They're all there. So that's the reason I go, because she takes it. I've been only a councillor for 3 years, but since I've been here, she's taken everything to heart. She's debated. She's 100% for the citizens, residents, accessibility, She fights for that. She's a champion for it all. And she made a serious judgment of error and really something out of a closed door meeting. And that's where I am.
Thank you, Councillor Blanc. I have a question for the Integrity Commissioner. The sanction recommended of 30 to 45 days. I don't believe that's the maximum you could have recommended, or even the final of the final amount of potential penalty. And I wonder if you could go over that for us.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. The suspension of pay is authorized by Municipal Act provisions that speak to our role and adherence to codes of conduct. And the provisions provide for either a reprimand or a suspension of pay for up to 90 days. And so the maximum that can suspension of pay that can be imposed by a council is 3 months.
Thank you. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. I've thought about this a lot, and it's unfortunate that we have to be here and have this discussion. I wish it weren't the case. I do agree with Councillor LeBlanc. I think the damage is done in the report, and I have no desire to penalize Councillor Tadman any more than what the process has already. I think it's difficult what we do here, and we can judge each other, but at the end of the day, I think that sometimes this job is more of a challenge than maybe what people understand, and the pressure of it can be difficult as well. So I'm willing to agree with this motion as it is as well.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Anderson?
I think everything Doug has said there is quite valid as far as her Mary's background, Mary Tadman's background, and how she has been 14 years with the municipality and has done her job. But it's our place. We've been put here by or elected to stand up to the code of ethics that we swore an oath on ourselves. And we took training. I have taken training twice on the code of ethics. And here's part of it. I think it is our duty. It's not about friendships. It's not about, in business, there's work to be done, and you must maintain the integrity of operating with full disclosure, just like we're trying to do with this council is trying to do that. And it's really disappointing that someone has slipped off. Yes, it was perhaps a mistake, but it was a bad mistake. And it was tried to be, it was almost covered up, almost to the point of not wanting to speak, not showing up at meetings, not for interviews. We spent hours. Our staff did. The community has really felt this. And I don't want to be the lone bad guy here. This is not being a bad guy. This is something that we need to do, and we can set the limit on whatever you're talking about, the finances. If we do nothing, that means if we vote for nothing, that means nothing happens. Going forward, nothing, and you're using comparisons back 10 years ago, nothing happened. And you said there was numerous times nothing happened. But there's got to be a time when you recognize that this is the law. This is a breach. And I wouldn't expect anything different. I wouldn't want to lose a month's pay either. But I'm just saying, if you do nothing, and it's based on, I know everybody here is a friend. It's a small community piece. I heard that comment. Small community should not have to concern itself with these types of things. Well, I'm sorry, I'm concerned, and I hope you are, because I can't say sweep, but it's not a very nice term, but sweep it under the rug. This was a bad mistake, and I'll stand up for something. Maybe review this and see where we could settle on something that's fair for you folks as well. But I don't think we should throw the full the full 90 days or anything like that. I think this is just about making what's right and making a decision based on what went wrong. Something went wrong. And then this may not be over yet. Just think of that. This has cost the resident, the taxpayer, thousands of dollars. I'm not making that up. We know what it costs to deal with professionals, and this group here, very professional. I would never want to be on the other end of the stick either. But I tell you, they're very thorough and they spent a lot of time on this. So I think I may have said too much, but I believe very strong to stand up for what we are supposed to stand up for. And I think the public, and it's happening all around the world, they look at politicians like all we do is sweep things aside. Well, it's time we started stepping up and making things right and keeping, I talk about enforcement all the time. This is sort of like enforcement, but we've got to do our duty. And if doing the duty is wrong, then let somebody tell me doing our duty is wrong.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. I, along with, I'm sure the rest of you have struggled with this as well. I'm not sure which investigations Councillor LeBlanc was referring to, the ones that I was involved in, but yes, I was involved in, I believe, two terms ago, where also Councillor Tadman was part of that investigation as well. So this is not the first time around the block. Yes, Councillor Tadman has probably most experience as far as number of years on this council. And I, for one, respect all of the time and effort she's put in, as we all have. We all champion the committees that we sit on. We all champion for what goes on in our community. I would say in that way, we're all on a level playing field. Mayor, you do what you can. The deputy mayor does what she can. We all commit our time to whatever goes on. I also have a hard time kind of penalizing what has to be done. I would like to see something, but not necessarily maybe 30 to 45 days. Is there an opportunity for, once again, a compromise? It's a big struggle for everybody. I understand mistakes are made. We all make mistakes at times. We've all been challenged at times as far as our integrity goes. I've heard just a little bit more over the last few days. So yes, I feel that we need to do something. I don't know what that something is. I would compromise even less than 30 days, but I think at some point there has to be some kind of penalty, however minimal it is. You're right. Maybe we did nothing a few times before. I'm not sure. I'm not so sure how in the scope of serious the other ones were. I'd have to go back and review what those were as well. Councillor LeBlanc, I can't remember. I put those things out of my mind. So yeah, I'm for doing something, but like I said, I'm also for compromise if we can come up with something a little bit less than even the 30 days.
Councillor Bateman.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'm going to start with, I don't honestly think it's fair. There might have been previous investigations, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. We're here to talk about this one. And I'm not saying there was or wasn't, but making reference to Councillor Tadman being part of something previously, or anybody for that matter. That's not why we're here. So we can't, because she had to excuse herself from this, but as the Integrity Commissioner said, she could partake in the debate, but she could definitely partake in the debate if we're going to bring up the previous one. I do agree with what Councillor LeBlanc said and the Deputy Mayor, and I don't think we're sweeping anything under the carpet if we consider something else, because they are recommendations. This has been on Quinte News, Northumberland News. It's going to be throughout the community forever. And it's not just about punishing people monetarily. And I think everybody knows where I stand. We've had discussions on closed sessions. But the punishment that you're facing in the public and the scrutiny you're getting is far more damning than any monetary amount you can put on it. You know, you can go without the pay, but you can't recover from the hit that you take on your reputation, no matter what it is. I know in my field of when I was doing HR study, a false accusation against somebody is damning and it's hard to come back from that. And a legitimate one is damning and it's hard to come back from. So I don't think we can sit here and say if there's no monetary punishment that we've done nothing, because this report is extensive and it's out there. Everybody has seen it and they're going to continue to see it from now until the end of time. So we have to keep that into consideration.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. And I want to reiterate, agreeing to not have a monetary penalty is not sweeping under the rug. We all agreed unanimously to have this investigation because we don't want this sort of thing to happen. And we've had the investigation and we have a result. And now we need to figure out what to do with it. I don't like being accused of sweeping something under the rug. I don't think anyone here is wanting to do that. And this isn't about friendships. This is about council and council conduct and how we want to move forward. Again, I haven't changed my mind. If the majority of council wants to discuss a lesser amount, then we can look at that. But I guess we would need to hear more from everyone on that.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Thank you. As a retired military member and a senior NCO that punished a lot of people, I never swept anything under the rug. I never have been. I never will. The other thing is, this is still being punished. Even a judge with first offenders, I don't know if she got guilty. The second one, I didn't find anything. But the thing is, they do give probation. They do stuff and they give them a chance. She still has to come in this chamber and face us all. She still has to face all the residents that she represents in the municipality of Brighton. This is out there. It's not going to come back. And knowing the heart and the thing that this lady has, this is more brutal than any monetary value, councillor. And the thing is, she's in enough pain now and she knows. She is still found guilty. She admitted it to it. And she went there. It might have took a few efforts. But the thing is, it could have been shame, could have been other things why she didn't want to come. I don't know. I'm not in her head, not in her mind. And the thing is, this has nothing to do with friendship. I took a note like you. I took it on the family Bible. I think I was the only one that put it on a Bible. But anyway, we'll leave that alone. The thing is that I have the code. I understand it. And also, the thing is, it is a serious punishment. I think she's gone through enough pain. I do not want to cause her any more pain than that. And she does know that she's done wrong, just like we all have to keep it to ourselves. And we do have a lot of closed door meetings. And after a year or two, it's hard to remember. You got to understand what it is. Sometimes when people talk to us, do we say we don't know anything about it? Or do we say it's a closed door meeting, I can't speak about it? Because I know that some staff say, I don't know anything about it. I never wasn't there. They should say, basically, it's a closed door meeting, I can't discuss it. That would be more appropriate, because when they say they don't know anything, and if the CAO brought them up in part of that closed door meeting, it gives the impression that the CAO, when he was saying something in a closed door meeting, was saying something that they weren't on board. So I don't want to go there. I just want to stay where it is and make it very simple. And that's where, but I do not sweep anything under the rug. Friendship or handship, there's none of that. She admitted it, she did it, and I'll tell you, she's gone through a lot of pain. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson?
Those were probably poor words, but it was using an expression, but it wasn't a good one. So, okay, I meant nothing to any of our councillors by saying that. It was a term, and I even sort of indicated that I wasn't comfortable saying it. I didn't have another reason. What I mean is, if we do nothing, if we vote this down, that means it's over. Yes, other than what you're referring to with the news and the wait.
Councillor Anderson, you have the floor.
She's guilty in the public based on media and hearsay. This is a public record that we're discussing here. This is we're doing our duty. We're doing our duty for the residents. We're doing our duty that as councillors. It's not the monetary part. I'm just saying, if we vote this down, it's a mistake. This happened. It actually happened, and every opportunity was there to make it right. When we discussed about calling in the integrity commissioner to and hiring the the commissioner to come and do a investigation. A simple, I made a mistake. We probably wouldn't have gone any further. We might have just discussed it that night, who knows? But, and numerous tries to get Councillor Tadman to even speak about it. It had to go to a summons, it had to do this, and I don't want to drag all of this up. It's all in the report. But I'm just saying this, we need to do our part. The Integrity Commissioner has done, his team has done their part. We've paid for that. It's not all about money, but it's certainly important to the residents. I believe we need to make sure or do something right, and so we can move forward with Councillor Tadman. Don't want to see her go anywhere. I don't want to see her any illness out of it. You're talking about illness, you're talking about all these things. I think we need to clear the air and put it behind us, but we can't just say no to it and say it. And I'm not saying we're saying it didn't happen. We're just saying nothing, there's no recourse, there's no closure, there's no, other than the media and all these other things you talk about. So that's going to happen when people make mistakes. That's going to happen. That's out of our control. Our control is making sure that this is that we're not like any other councils elsewhere that are having, we don't have this. How many times have we had the Integrity Commissioner come and do something like a deep study with us? Once. There's been a couple of little reviews, I think, and I've asked the question about something that I was concerned about, but just asked the question. But other communities around us have been just keeping these guys busy, and I don't want to be that type of community. I think, and you've talked about you brought up the past. We didn't, none of us. You're bringing up things about the past that drives me crazy. I don't want to hear about the past. I don't want. We're a new council and we're making things happen, but to start bringing up things that happened 10 years ago or whatever it was, and we have a council can't remember that it was that far back, I guess, but I think we need to deal with it tonight. We need to, so Mary can move on, we can all move on, and if the public doesn't like what we've done, well, they'll decide.
Councillor Rowley.
Thank you again, Mayor. I guess my concern is if we do nothing, if we just receive this report and we do absolutely nothing, why bother with any kind of investigations? And what will it take as far as a penalty goes? How much more serious a breach of whatever of our code of conduct? How many levels up higher are we going to have to be before we finally say that these things are serious? I think this is serious, as Councillor Anderson alluded to. There's money involved now. There could be money involved later. We don't know. We don't know where this is going to go. That's for sure. It's certainly not over. But I would then ask whether it's a council member, whether it's a staff member, where is the breaking point then? Where do you see this going as far as what will it take to eventually have some kind of penalty? Because if this is just, then we can just, any kind of penalty that whatever come from the Integrity Commissioner or whatever, we can just do the same thing, receive a report, put it on the shelf, and we move on. So there's really then no point in having any kind of investigations on anything. We'll just handle it, move on, and that'll be that.
Councillor Bateman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to repeat, I don't think we're not doing anything, and it's not hearsay. This is a detailed Integrity Commissioner report that goes on public record forever. And all the ones that have been mentioned that probably shouldn't be mentioned tonight are out there, and I've read them all. It's easily researched and found. So it's not a hearsay thing that disappears. They're there from the beginning of time. You want to look up 25, 15, 17, for any municipality, it's all in alphabetical order. So it's not something that just disappears. And education is as important as the monetary stuff. It's about correcting the behavior. It's not always about finding somebody and doing something. So it's not if we go this direction that we're not doing anything, and it's not hearsay. The reason the newspapers were mentioned was to validate the aspect of the humiliation part of it. This is on public record forever. These don't disappear. And I'll ask the integrity commissioner to clarify, like, did these get erased from public record? Because I've been able to look them up back to as early 2000s until I got bored. And though I do have another question for Mr. Abrams, if I could, because it was mentioned tonight and it's not in the report, and I wouldn't think it would be. If somebody anywhere, it doesn't matter what municipal council, is it an escalating thing? Let's say you had somebody that had multiple infractions that were taken to the integrity commissioner. Is that something that would ever be factored in when you're doing a report, or any IC doing a report?
Two questions there, Mr. Abrams. One is about the public record and one is about the potential of escalating penalty from your recommendation.
Certainly. To the first question, all integrity commissioner recommendation reports, such as this one, are public reports. They're placed on a public council agenda. And so to the extent that those are permanent records of the municipality and searchable, they're available to the public into perpetuity. Some integrity commissioners post reports through an online repository of legal decisions. It's an imperfect system. We have difficulty, with something as simple as formatting them to this system. So there are some that are compiled and published as if they were decisions of the court, but that is not at all universal. Nevertheless, they are public reports and they're on public agendas in perpetuity. To the second question, we certainly do take into account what might be referred to in the human resources sense as progressive discipline. I should remind council, and you may not have heard me clearly when I was answering the mayor's question earlier. Even in the Municipal Act, when it speaks to the authorized sanctions, there are really two types. One is a formal reprimand, and the second is a suspension of pay for a period of up to 90 days. In this instance, as you know, we saw, given the seriousness of what we view to be breach of confidentiality, we recommended a sanction of between 30 and 45 days. That's our role, to recommend to you. It is your role to consider whether or not the sanction based on our findings, based on our report, is an appropriate one. And so this debate is a proper debate, but simply receiving a report and putting it on the record seems to be inconsistent with some of the statements members have been making, because the receipt of a report gives no indication of council's concern that the code has been breached in a substantial way. And so if it is of council's mind to do so, the issuance of a formal reprimand is a statement that the activities of the member of Councillor Tadman are seen by the rest of the council to be serious and in breach of the code of conduct, and not to be, hate to use the word sanctioned, but not to be accepted as proper behavior, contrasting that with the simple receipt of the report.
Thank you for that. And we may circle back to you for some wording on that. So I want to make sure I get everybody here. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and thank you for that information. I would certainly agree to some sort of formal reprimand. It's, like I said, I don't want to sweep this on the rug. I don't want to say this isn't serious. Of course it's serious. That's why we all agreed to have this investigated, right? I had no idea. I really had no idea how this was going to turn out. And now we know, and the public knows as well. So I just don't know that a monetary reprimand, I just don't know that it makes, it has the effect that we want it to have. Yes, this costs money. I don't think we all know what we get paid. I don't think a month or a month and a half worth of salary is going to make much of a difference anyways. So I don't buy that point. That point doesn't, fly with me. I would prefer to know more about the reprimand, because yes, of course we have to acknowledge that this isn't right. This isn't how we want our council to operate. And that is why we had the investigation. So if other members of council be willing to talk about that, I would prefer if we would go that route.
Councillor LeBlanc.
I would go with the deputy mayor to go and reprimand. She did admit to it, to doing it, to the stuff. But I have two questions for the integrity commissioner. Because when Councillor Bateman mentioned Councillor Anderson mentioned something, it seems like I'm out of the loop in something that some of the other councillors may know that I don't know. So he tend to allude that this investigation and Emily isn't over. Is this investigation over?
No, that's not what he was alluding to. I think he was suggesting that there may be more costs associated with the breach, not with the investigation.
That's not how it sounded to me. But anyway,
That's exactly how it sounded to me.
okay, thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
my personal opinion. The other question is this report complete and accurate?
Mr. Abrams?
Yes, it's complete and it's accurate. Well, when I say it's complete, it's our role as integrity commissioner under our statutory obligation is to conduct our investigations under a cloak of confidentiality. And so we don't report out every word that is spoken, every question and every answer. It's our responsibility to conduct a fair investigation and to make findings. In that sense, it is absolutely complete. We have done all of the work. We have done made all the necessary inquiries and made the findings and made our recommendations. So in that sense, absolutely, it is complete.
I'm going to go over to Councillor Anderson. Councillor Anderson,
Try to be brief.
good luck.
Well, this, there's a lot to this, and I know it's weighed really heavy on all our minds. And if you can say it didn't, I wouldn't think. To me, it certainly has weighed heavy. I don't enjoy this one bit. The one thing is you talk about the past and you talk about, going back a number of times that it's happened in this municipality and what were the final results of those? I don't know because we haven't, and we're not going to talk about them, but I presume they ended the way we were heading. That it was maybe a reprimand, but maybe nothing, maybe receive. I do not want to be part of a council that's going to add another one to the list of not getting things taken care of as far as resolved. And I think we need to resolve this with the decisions that I'm talking about. And I welcome a chance to discuss the reprimand or the non-monetary. I'm welcome to talk. Let's talk about that. But we need to move ahead and resolve this.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. As I said earlier, I'm open to compromise. And so if this becomes a compromise, that's fine. I would like to clarify with Councillor LeBlanc that I know nothing more than you know as far as this goes. And my comment regarding, will this go farther? We don't know exactly, nothing to do with this report. But going forward, we don't know exactly where this is headed with staff. So I know nothing more than you do. This is not about having anything extra as far as maybe what Councillor Anderson said. I feel the same way. We don't know what the end dollar amount is for this investigation or where it moves forward based on other information, and this and other information that we have or that was talked about in a closed meeting that we don't talk about, correct? So I just want to clarify that with you. And as I said previous, I am open to some sort of compromise. This isn't about anything other than that. Let's get it done.
Councillor LeBlanc.
I would like to change my vote to
Okay, well, let's talk about that when we wrap up. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, Mr. Abram, since this was all taking place in closed door session, when we bring this to open, does it also open the closed door meeting into open? How this happened, the occurs, the consequence of what justified it, how it came about?
Well, Mr. Mayor, through you, Councillor LeBlanc, you will notice that we've been circumspect in our report. We have not described the contents of the matters before council in closed session to any significant detail. And so by our reporting out in public this evening, we in no way are triggering the disclosure or authorizing the disclosure of any information that was heard by council in closed session.
So in other words, only the information in your report is the information that would be in the public purview.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bateman?
Thank you, Mayor. For Mr. Abrams again, beyond monetary punishment when you do a report, is it not in the closed session, and you'd be able to tell me, I'm sure I read it there, that you can look at other sanctions beyond monetary, as in if a council member were to breach confidentiality, they can be barred from participating in whatever we set as in closed session meeting going forward. There's other options beyond monetary, is there not?
Well, the Act speaks to, Mr. Mayor, the Act speaks to two sanctions, and the reprimand or the suspension of pay up to 90 days. But there is some room to offer some remedies, not in the form of sanctions, but remedies. And those remedies, they'd be remedial, they would help to fix a problem. And so we have a practice of recommending training from time to time, because that will help fix a concern. But to impose, to ban a member from attending at a public meeting when the statute doesn't confer that authority on either us or you would be problematic. I should say, for example, that kind of sanction exists under the Education Act, where a trustee at the conclusion of a finding that they breached the code of conduct might be, trying to remember the language, suspended from a series of committee meetings, but only one meeting of the board. That same language does not exist in the municipal statutory framework. And so I don't believe you have any authority to deny a member of council from attending a closed session meeting.
I'm going to make some comments, Mr. Abrams, and then while I'm doing that, I'd ask you to put your mind to language around a reprimand for this motion so that we can consider that instead of a monetary penalty. And then we'll let council debate how they want to conclude the motion. To say this is weighed heavily on my mind, I think would be an understatement at best. I had a couple of pretty weighty meetings today, and I was having trouble concentrating knowing this meeting was coming up. One of those meetings was, I was chairing the Public Works Committee meeting for a county council, and we were dealing with some bridges. One of them was ours, and I wanted to be present for that, very present for that conversation. I think we did good work today, but I still had trouble being present because I knew that this was coming up. I was also in a webinar at lunch about the Williams Treaty and about truth and reconciliation, pretty weighty conversation. I've been having trouble concentrating on that because I knew this meeting was coming up. Councillor Tadman and I have sat on council for exactly the same amount of time. We both got elected in 2003, and we both were asked by the good people of Brighton to take a hiatus for 4 years in different times, but we were asked to stay home for 4 years. So she and I have had almost 15 years of council experience. And I can tell you that after 14 years of sitting on this council, I know the importance of keeping confidential things confidential. Council asked me to seek an investigation with unanimity. Every single member of council voted in favor of me asking for this investigation, and all members of council were present. The councillor named in this report did not confess at that meeting to this breach and led us down the road of a fairly costly and prolonged investigation because of other decisions that were made during the investigation. I agree this can be an incredibly difficult job. Very few jobs we're doing aren't difficult, but this one can be particularly weighing. We have responsibility for our entire community and for things that we didn't even know we were getting into, I think, sometimes. And keeping information like this private and confidential is part of our trust with the community. And when things like this happen, it breaks the trust of members of council for each other, which is sometimes hard enough to build. But it also erodes the confidence that the community has in us as a group. I've been asking myself, pardon me, what would we do if we discovered the breach was a member of staff? And I can tell you, we would not be having a question about 30 or 45 days of suspension of pay. It would be much more severe than that, and I think we all know it. This council has been working incredibly well together. We have, we've had some good debates, we've had some disagreements. We've had disagreements that sometimes I don't think we even know we're having because we're not talking to each other. But when we come together, we're doing good work for this community. And that was, I think, our collective goal for this term of council. It was my hope we would never have to go down this road in this term of council. I was really hoping that we would never see Jeff and Janice on the screen. No offense, of course. But at the end of the day, we do find ourselves here, and I think we need to have a particularly appropriate response to this breach. Not just, as I think the deputy mayor said, any suspension of pay will never recoup the cost and may never recoup whatever costs the breach may have moving forward. But I think we certainly need to send a clear message that we're not okay with the breach. And if that's a reprimand and that's what council's wish is, then as always, I will support council's decision. So over to you, Mr. Abrams, for some wording for us to consider.
Yes, it's actually, the reprimand is actually a formal statement by council that the member is reprimanded. So you could substitute the recommendation we've made with the following, that having been found to have breached the Municipality of Brighton's Council Code of Conduct, council hereby formally reprimands Councillor Mary Tadman. And I can repeat that if the clerk didn't catch it.
I think I got it. I'll just read it back once I've written it down. So it would read that having been found to have breached the Municipality of Brighton's Council Code of Conduct, council hereby formally reprimands Councillor Mary Tadman.
Correct.
Councillor LeBlanc, this is your motion.
I would agree to that.
Councillor Bateman as the seconder. So it's moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council received the closed meeting investigation report dated October 22nd, 2021. And further, that having been found to have breached the Municipality of Brighton's Council Code of Conduct, council hereby formally reprimands Councillor Mary Tadman. Councillor Rowley.
I would like a recorded vote, please.
As soon as we're done the debate, I will for sure ask for that. Councillor LeBlanc. Thank you. Anyone else? Madam Clerk, a recorded vote has been requested by Councillor Rowley.
Councillor Emily Rowley,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Laura Connect,
Yes.
Councillor Ron Anderson,
Yes.
Councillor Mark Bateman,
Yes.
Councillor Doug LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mayor Brian Ostrander,
Yes.
and that's carried.
Thank you. Our thanks to our integrity commissioners for providing us with this information and the recommendations that you did.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We wish you the pleasant rest of the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, should we, he had mentioned the integrity commissioner that Mary would have if she wanted. Do we extend that offer if she wanted to speak to this, or?
We
Even though she-
can, but she absented herself from the meeting.
Okay.
So I think we move on now. I think we just move on. Is someone retrieving Councillor Tadman? Okay. Thank you. That brings us to 9.2 on our agenda, traffic control bylaw stop signs update. This was prepared by Mr. McGee, but I don't think he's, oh, whoa, there he is. Mr. McGee, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
Not at this time.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Bateman. The council received the staff report dated November 1st, 2021 regarding the amendment to Schedule A of Bylaw 127, 2019 to regulate traffic within the municipality of Brighton, and further that council passes a resolution to amend Schedule A of the traffic signal bylaw as outlined in the report. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. McGee. Next report is the 2021 Department Work Plans Third Quarter Report. Mr. Castleman, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
I do not.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc, that council receive the 2021 Third Quarter Work Plan Report for information. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Our next report is the 2022 Fees and Charges Report. Director Whitfield, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
I do not.
I have a motion moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council receives the 2022 Fees and Charges Report and authorizes staff to advertise for the public meeting on November 15th, 2021, and to prepare a bylaw for the December 6th, 2021 council meeting. Is there any discussion? Councillor LeBlanc.
Or the director of planning. I noticed that some of your fees have increased.
To the mayor, yes.
Good answer. Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc.
That's a good question. That's very simple. Thank you. I really appreciate that answer. The thing is that you've increased them, but have you increased them enough to cover the cost and everything? Because I noticed that there is kind of still a loss.
Mr. Walsh.
Through the mayor, yes. Good question. There's a couple of items there where we might be still lagging behind, but the plan is in the following year to make that upward adjustment again to cover our costs and not realize deficiencies on certain lines. So it's meant to graduate it in over 2 years as opposed to doing it all in 1 year.
You have a follow-up?
Yes,
Go ahead.
So the loss, what we used to pay in a consultant planner and the cost, and we had losses, but we got stuff done. Is this still within that realm? We're still not losing as much or in there? You will catch up by next year? Because what I'm looking at the budget, if we're still at a loss, are we going to be increasing the taxes on the residents to cover that loss?
Director Walsh.
Yeah, we're still in a surplus position comparing pre-planning staff to the current situation where we have planning staff. So we still have, we're still on the positive side in that regard.
Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. This question would be for Ms. Whitfield. I believe that the whole fees and charges is under review. Do we have is this at the end of the 5-year plan, or are we in the middle?
Through you, Mayor, Councillor Rowley, are you referring to water and wastewater fees and charges?
Your microphone, please.
I'm sorry. Our whole fees and charges, or our, I think, development fees. is that
Oh,
all?
okay. So development charges are something completely different
Oh, okay.
from this, but we are proposing to do a water and wastewater rate study again in 2022. Because it's every 5 years that we are legislated to do that on the water side. And the last one was 2017. So you'll see some reports coming forward from consultants next year on your water and wastewater fees. As far as development charges, we are in the middle of a small update, and they won't come forward again with a major study until 2024. That will be the 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bateman.
2 questions, one for the Director of Planning and one for Linda Whitfield. The first one, I noticed you didn't raise some. Sorry, Doug. Well, after that first session, we need a little. But for this report tonight, is this, when it comes back, I think the date here is December 6th. So if we receive and accept this tonight, these are set, or is this still going to be debatable on December 6th?
Director, or yeah, whichever one.
So fees and charges go through a 3-meeting process. We present this report this evening. We have a public meeting at the beginning of our next council meeting where any member of the public can speak to council regarding our fees and charges report. And we're advertising that in the newspaper as well as on our website. And then finally on December 6th, unless council has some changes and what has a little bit of room there to move it to another meeting in December if they need to, if you need to. But that would be the meeting that the bylaw would normally come to, as the 3rd meeting.
Follow up.
No, the other reason I ask is we really don't have to dwell on the numbers tonight. This is just really, it's coming down the road and there's multiple times. Yeah.
Councillor LeBlanc.
This is for Linda Whitfield. We discussed this earlier on about the fees on water and sewage, and I think all the councillors here did the calls and talk to people that the fees are too high. But in talking, there has been a comparison made in 2017. Is there any way, other than me going back and getting it, that there could be a publication putting what the fees are in a newspaper comparison so that the people say we are compared to what the other people are getting for water and sewage?
Director Whitfield.
Because they think we're overrated. The only ones that's higher than us is the county, because they get their water from Trenton and Belleville, Quinte West.
Okay, through you, Mayor. I assume that you were talking about Prince Edward County.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Through you, Mayor, I can answer that question in maybe a more complicated way. The study is 2017, so it is a little older, and our fees have increased based on that rate study. So the fees you see now are the ones that were approved by council in that rate study in 2017. When we do another rate study next year, that comparison will come forward. For me to go and do research and put something in the newspaper, I think council maybe would want to ask staff to do a report to council on what the fees are in other municipalities, or you could just wait until 2022 and find out what the rate study shows. So we're not, replicating that work in another 6 months. But if you would like to know now, council, we could undertake a little review by just looking for bylaws in other municipalities and bringing that information forward.
As of right now, the rates that you show us here in this report, Director, they're based on that 2017 rate study where comparators were made available to the council of the day.
Correct.
Yeah, and so rate comparators will be made available through the new study in 2022. Is that what I heard you say?
Correct.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor Bateman. No. Deputy Mayor Connect.
Thank you. Just on that topic, I know people like to complain about the rates, but I think when you understand where they come from, I mean, I have to pay for water and sewer, and I've never done that before in my life, but I have had to pay for a new septic system, and it's quite costly. So at the end of the day, it's the cost of having water and sewer in the municipality of Brighton, and I think it's important that we as members of council reiterate that to people as well.
I agree with you, Deputy Mayor. I live in the rural, so I have the cost of pumping up my septic tank all the time at $500 a pump, and my water softeners, and maintaining my own pumps and my own systems and pressure system. I understand that. But as councillors, we in the built-up area, there is a lot of complaints of the high water rates, and didn't hear them as much, but when the rates went up this year, like it's getting more and more. And if I had a comparison per 50 cubic meters, like are we at $300 versus Trenton, but they have a full treatment system. They have 17 employees. We have 2 employees, one at the wastewater. What are the comparison rates that you look at? I know some of your staff are on there and the stuff, but what is the comparison rate for like 50 cubic meters of water? And I know we got by valve size, by the valve size at 1 inch, a 3/4 inch, a 2.5 inch, a 3 inch, that goes in, and that's how you pay your rates. But it's just a comparison that we got to look at. I was just asking generally because how I can have an answer to the residents when they ask me that question, because I like to pull out paper. Like in the rural meeting, what the director of Public Works has brought up, in the rural, when they come to me, they said, nothing's been done in the rural area. I grabbed the signed thing from the bylaw officer. I grabbed the report from the director of Public Works, and I go give it to them, and I say, here, this is what's been done this year. This is what's been done. And I said, so you got your report. And they go away. They said, we never knew all that stuff was done. And I make 300 or 400 copies. And I give them out. I put them out. Because when I hear those things, I want to support our staff. I want to support council. I want to support us all in all, and to show the ratepayers that we are doing something. And there's a lot being done. Even though they're not sitting on their road, it's being done. Preston, I asked him for that all the time, and he accommodates me 2 years in a row, instead of, and it goes well. Mr. McGee gave me everything about the sign rates and everything he's putting out. It just quiets the whole argument, and then they talk.
Councillor Blanc, let's bring the conversation back to the fees and charges report.
See if I could have something. I don't know. I'll ask for, not for me, but for all the council, because it's a question that I'm asked all the time, and I'd just like to have an answer for it.
In order to do that, you need to bring a motion for direction to staff.
If I could have a senator, I'd like to bring a motion at staff to do a small little comparison of a number of municipalities locally, or that basically tell us what the comparison in water rates are. A one pager, so you can just click it in. This is where it is. It makes it very easy, very simple.
Councillor
And I,
Tad,
and I know that Linda Whittlefield and her staff have been very accommodating for people that have leaking toilets that they don't fix, and their bills go from $200 to $800 a month. They've been accommodating everybody when they understand that. So it's been very good.
Councillor Tadman, this is your motion. Would you like to see something like that, providing direction to staff tagged onto this motion?
Yes, I'd like to second Councillor LeBlanc's motion, because I think it's very valuable for a lot of people that are asking a lot of the time, you know, why are we being charged so much? So if we have, and it doesn't have to be, you know, a huge report, Lynn, just basic comparisons is all I would like to see, so that we can basically defend what is being charged.
Are we just looking for water and wastewater? Nothing else?
Questions, 99% of the questions I get as a counselor when I'm out, that's what I'm getting asked.
And are we looking for municipalities of similar size of ours? Are we looking for our neighbors? How extensive are we talking about here?
No, just our neighbors, and 2 or 3 of them. locally to compare.
Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
You made a good point. I think size probably has more factor than comparing us to Quinny West or Belleville or, because they're,
They're bigger.
well, you said they have 37 employees or whatever, and we have 2. I think there's a lot that goes into that. Yes, you've got volume, you've got services, you've got what's established, and they have a new water treatment plant that's only been there a while. So there's a lot of things that have gone into their costs and expenses, whether they're higher or lower, one way or the other. It's not comparing apples to apples, I don't think. So maybe perhaps we should be looking closer to, I don't know, Coburn or, something that's comparable. Even Coburn maybe, but something population wise and or number of residents. And also if you compare to places somewhere like Quinny West, you've got a huge, huge industrial and commercial base compared to what our municipality has. So their use of water and sewage is going to be, you've got hotels all over the place, all those things. So it's going to be different. So maybe the bottom, maybe the bottom line isn't all that different, but I think it will be.
Councillor Bateman, as the seconder, are you okay adding something like this to the motion?
I had a question for
Go ahead.
the director, if I could, or the motion. When are we looking to get this back? And based on that, does the director have enough time? Because I think
Yeah.
we need this for the budget time, correct? And I'd like to hear from, how long does it take? Like, do you have enough time to do what's being requested to do? Right.
So I'm going to guess that this doesn't, the comparators do not have to be available for budget. My understanding is that Councillor LeBlanc just wants the information so that he can have
For the public.
conversations with all of the good neighbors of Brighton.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was going to delay the dates that have already been pre-picked for the budgetary thing. Okay.
So, to your honor,
Actually, I really have to go over to Councillor Tadman here. Councillor Tadman?
And that's exactly what I wanted to bring up, Mayor, because I'm in no hurry to have this. I would just like, and you're going to be really busy now with budgets. So sometime in the new year would be great, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not putting a date on it or any pressure. Just that it is something that a lot of people ask about.
to you,
Councillor
Mayor, and to Councillor Anderson, there already is a study. There already is the comparison municipalities. You just got to call them the municipalities that are on that study, and it gives you your comparison, what they were before to what they are now. It gives you, they're already.
I'm going to the deputy mayor next, but I need to know, Councillor Bateman, are you okay adding that to the motion?
That's fine.
Okay, deputy mayor.
Thank you. I was just going to say that if we're going to do this, I'd like to see our neighboring communities. I understand that they're very different size, but their rates are also divided by the number of people who live there. So we're still going to get some comparisons. It's being educated and knowing when people say, well, ours is the highest everywhere. We can say, well, no, actually here it's this and here it's this and here's this and this is why. So makes sense.
I'm just adding to the motion. I've added, and further that council directs staff to provide comparator fees for water and wastewater services from our neighboring municipalities. So that would be 3, being Crammy, Trent Hills, and City of Quinny West. That's who we share borders with. That's it. Anyone have, that's good? That's good. So the motion is to receive the report, to have a public meeting on November 15th, prepare bylaws for the 6th, and the direction I just read. Is there any further comment? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. That takes us to the 2022 Planning and Building Fees and Charges Report. Director Walsh. Any comments?
No further comments, Mayor.
Motion moved by Councillor LeBlanc, second by Councillor Rowley, that council receives the 2022 Planning and Building Fees and Charges Report and authorizes staff to advertise for the public meeting on November 15th, 2021, and to prepare a bylaw for the December 6th, 2021 council meeting. Is there any discussion? Councillor Tadman.
Thank you, Mayor. It's the same as any other fees. We go through the process and sometimes, well, we always do take in consideration the comments that come from the residents, and so this isn't written in stone. And so, yeah, of course, we will receive it now, but we may make changes later.
Absolutely. That's why we consult with the good people of Brighton. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Bateman.
You might be able to answer this, Mayor. Anything we decide at those future meetings on these development fees and charges, anything that we do, will it be impacted what Northumberland County does? So if we set a fee at a certain level, does that leave an avenue? You know, because if we want to keep it here, how does that work when we set ours in comparison to what they do? Do they wait for ours to determine?
Yeah, so these are building and planning fees for the municipality of Brighton, and I don't think the county has similar fee chart, do they? Brighton is the land use planning authority.
That's correct, Mayor. There are some fees that they apply if they are looking at things such as an official plan amendment by an individual landowner. Then they will have an additional fee to process that application if it involves an amendment to the county plan. So there are some instances, but those are quite limited. And we do have the county providing plumbing permit review. That would be another exception, but for the most part, yeah, that's very, very largely our domain.
Thank you. Did that answer your question? I worry that it didn't.
Yeah, so there's some, but not many. So really, I was just concerned, like, let's say we didn't want to increase it too much and we leave room because we're trying to do well by our residents. Would they seize the opportunity? Okay, they kept it low. We're going to attack it up there and we don't accomplish anything, because we all know it doesn't matter if it's federal, upper tier, lower tier, provincial or federal. There's only one taxpayer. So we might want to do good by our residents here, and then somebody's going to jump on top of our kindness.
Yeah, I don't see that happening from a planning fees and charges perspective at all. Anything further from members of council? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. There are no notices of motion or motions. There is no unfinished business on this agenda, which brings us to bylaws. First bylaw is to control and regulate vehicular traffic, and it's moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. The council gives a bylaw its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date. Being a bylaw to amend bylaw 127, 2019, a bylaw to control and regulate vehicular traffic in the municipality of Brighton. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Brings us to reports of advisory committees of council, reports and minutes and council reports. The first is the Community Events Committee, with a motion moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson. The council received the Community Events Advisory Committee minutes from the September 14th, 2021 meeting as presented. Is there any discussion? Councillor Bateman.
And stop me if we can't. I think we have a meeting tomorrow, correct? And we've had discussions about the parade. There's a lot of talk about the Santa Claus parade. So I think we will be looking at whether it will remain a static parade or a moving parade. But I think it's important to say, and when we talked, that it's really more about whether you can put floats in a parade, whether it'll move from a static to a mobile parade, because nobody wants to stand out in the cold and watch 3 floats go by. So I think we meet tomorrow afternoon, so there'll be more to come on it.
Tomorrow at 4:30, I believe. Councillor Rowley.
And depending on decisions made by our committee, could we put staff on notice that we might need extra help?
I think we may have done that.
Thank you.
I think given the circumstances through the pandemic, if the committee does decide to pivot, our staff would be understanding of that and would wish to pivot with us. And the committee members have my commitment to make sure we get things through the county permission channels as well as quickly as we can. Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, I only brought up, I think it's important for them to understand it's not going to be from lack of effort from, it's no different than Apple Fest or the events committee. It's not from lack of effort. There's, we can get the county buy-in, and I know our team can do it, but you have to, there's a lot of other stuff that has to go into that before you can do it. So if it stays a static parade, it's not because we didn't want one, it's because we couldn't do it.
As I think I said to you or Councillor Rowley or both, this is a conversation we really should have been having in August, and we all understand how long these things take to organize and get ready. So if there's an ability to pivot, great. If not, I hope and I trust that certainly council, but I think the people of Brighton will be understanding. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I was going to comment further. Maybe this isn't the time to discuss it, of course, right? I just know the difficulty in it, right? When we were trying to figure out what to do with Apple Fest, and people use comparators as far as, stadiums, and, there are larger, cities that are doing things, but we're a small municipality. These events are done by volunteers, and we don't have the staff to, like, these other communities are hiring security to make sure there aren't crowds, and there's a lot more to this. So, I mean, I understand it completely. Whatever we do, I'm sure that it will be lovely.
Thank you. All those in favor? There being none opposed, the motion is carried. That brings us to the Economic Development Committee minutes, and it's moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Bateman, that council received the Economic Development Committee meeting minutes from their September 2nd, 2021 meeting as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. And brings us to Brighton Digital Archives Committee. It's moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that council received the minutes from the June 22nd, August 24th, and September 28th, 2021 meetings of the Brighton Digital Archives Committee, and further the council received the BDA Storage Strategic Plan. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried. Brings us to reports, minutes of statutory committees, boards, and external agencies. First is Lower Trent, moved by Councillor Bateman, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that council received the Lower Trent board meeting minutes from their September 9th, 2021 meeting as presented. Is there any discussion? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. On page 112 of 146 in our agenda, there's some discussion around the MZO, ministerial zoning order. I'm wondering, so that more of us on our council could have a little bit more information on that. Is it possible at some point to get a presentation or delegation from whoever could help us out with that?
I imagine it would be Executive Director Bateman that could help us out there. Councillor Bateman.
You want clarification on that MZO's work?
Well, she participated, or she attended a delegation on that, right? So I just find that whole MZO, I'd like to see exactly where it fits in with council, with our planning department. If we could have a presentation of some, it doesn't need to be today or tomorrow, but to give us a little more clear understanding of how that whole order works.
Councillor Bateman.
I'm sure we could reach out to the Rhonda, and we've been presented, and it's quite the convoluted chart, but I can guarantee you it will be as clear as mud after they present it to you, because it's still clear as mud to a lot of people. And in a nutshell, an MZO order is usually the municipality that would request that, not the developer, but they can come and try to explain it, because when they put it up on a chart for us, it's if somebody does this, it goes here, but then it could go here, but it wouldn't hurt to have them here. You have a little bit of understanding, but it might even be more beneficial to have the MPP explain those as well, because I know at Lower Trent, nobody really has 100% grasp on it, because there's still a lot of regulations that haven't been completely rolled out with the new changes to the conservation authorities. So I'm not saying not to bring them, but it might not clear it up.
Councillor Tadman.
I think that's an excellent question that you're asking, Councillor Raleigh, because as Councillor Bateman was saying, it's very hard to understand all the rules, but in the end, the province through the MZO can overrule our decision. If we, in the end, vote one way and the developer can go up to the MZO, they can rule, go ahead and build 1,600 homes. So really, I think we need to understand where this all sits.
And I wonder, I'll come back to you, but I wonder if it's not Lower Trent that should present to us, but maybe someone from Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. I'm sure there's planners at Municipal Affairs and Housing that could help us out. Mr. Walsh, I'm looking at you to confirm that. I don't know if they have planning authority or not, but.
Well, I think it is an order issued under the Planning Act, and as such, probably the planners, I suspect, at Municipal Affairs and Housing would be knowledgeable to some extent to assist. It is a bit of a novel tool. Not that it's novel; it's been around for a lot of years, but normally is reserved for provincial scale developments such as the new auto plant and this sort of thing. Recently, it's been more frequently applied, and therefore more interest among councils. And so I think the ministry staff would perhaps have some up-to-date training on it. I'd hope so. I can investigate that and see who can do a presentation.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so, because I think, like I say, we read a little bit more and more regarding, open agricultural wetland areas, that this could affect our municipality at some sort, yet we really don't know either the pros or cons, or certainly I don't understand, and I would imagine it comes from playing that we need to get that information. So I don't think it would hurt for us to get kind of just a basic understanding of how this would work. I would certainly appreciate that.
So I don't think we need to add it to the motion in any way. We'll just leave it to the director of planning and the clerk's office to find the appropriate person to bring a presentation to council on MZOs. Is that fair enough?
Yes, and it doesn't need to be before the end of this year, but I think going forward, it certainly would be helpful.
Thank you. Councillor Bateman.
I would just add to it, because the MZO is really the last step, just for them to explain, because when they presented at Lower Trent to the best they could, it's the fishbone chart is like unlike anything I've seen on where it can go in different directions to appeal. It's not going to be like it used to, approve here, deny here, go to OMB. There's so many different avenues and branches of that. I think it would be beneficial, not just to council, but to staff to understand that part, because you got to get through all that before they just say, here's an MZO.
And I think because they have been applied more often in the last little while, they've become sort of the big scary elephant in the room. So it would be good, I think, to have clarity on how it works and when it might get invoked and that kind of stuff. So just a basic 50,000 foot level overview. Anything further on the motion? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Brings us to the DBIA September 9th, 2021 meeting minutes, and it's moved by Deputy Mayor Connect, seconded by Councillor Rowley. The council received the DBIA September 9th, 2021 meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Brings us to correspondence, direction items, endorsements, communications, and petitions. Our first piece of correspondence comes from Mr. Breeze with regard to water pressure in the municipality. It's moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Rowley. The council received the correspondence from Tom Breeze regarding concerns with water pressure within the municipality. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And our next piece of correspondence is from Gran, Northumberland. It's moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Bateman. The council support request from Gran, Northumberland for permission to shine orange floodlights on King Edward Community Centre from November 25th, 2021 to December 10th, 2021, and to tie orange ribbons around poles downtown Brighton, and further that council supports the request I'm assuming we're supporting. The request to proclaim November 25th to December 10th, 2021 as Orange Days, End Violence Against Women and Girls. And I'm looking to Councillors Tadman and Bateman to confirm that we're supporting that second line as well, because there's a preamble now, if we do. That the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, November 25th, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, to December 10th, Human Rights Day, is a time to galvanize action to end violence against women and girls. And whereas the United Nations Unite campaign to end violence against women raises awareness and calls for action during the 16 days using the color orange as a uniting theme. And whereas the measures introduced to curb the COVID-19 pandemic have contributed to an alarming increase in the already existing pandemic of violence against women. And whereas the Municipality of Brighton acknowledges the Grandmothers Advocacy Network, a Canadian organization that advocates for the human rights of grandmothers and vulnerable children in sub-Saharan Africa who experience violence in their daily lives. And whereas violence against women and girls is pervasive around the world, including Canada. And whereas by creating worldwide awareness and calling for adequate sustained resources, we will find solutions to end gender-based violence. Now, therefore, the Mayor and members of Council of the Municipality of Brighton do hereby proclaim the 16 days of November 25th to December 10th, 2020 as Orange Days, End Violence Against Women and Girls in the Municipality of Brighton. Is there any discussion? Councillor Bateman.
Is it possible if we can ask staff to really communicate what we're doing on this one because of the orange ribbons and the orange shirts, because that color it's prominent with support from the Indigenous community as well, and I don't want the message to be lost on this.
Understood. Mr. Castleman, I see that Mr. Hagerman is not with us. Would you please communicate that to him and his staff to ensure that we're communicating this out? I think appropriately throughout the 16-day period would be good. Any further discussion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. That brings us to the consent agenda. There are 6 items in the consent agenda. I would ask if there is anything in there that anyone would like to pull out for debate under a separate cover. Don't see any, so the motion is moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Be it resolved, the staff recommendations with respect to consent agenda items 16.1 to 16.6 be adopted as printed. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Madam Clerk, are you aware of anyone joining us for question period? Deputy Clerk? Thank you. That brings us to the motion to proceed in camera. Should council vote to proceed in camera, we will end the YouTube live stream and take a 10-minute recess. It's moved by Councillor Tadman, seconded by Councillor Bateman. The council resolve itself into closed session November 1st, 2021 at 8:03 p.m. Pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act 2001 as amended, subsection 239(2)(b), personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, appointment to the Sustainability Committee. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you when we next meet for the planning meeting next Monday. We will recess for 10 minutes and reconvene